So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between someone who is problem solving oriented and someone who is emotional validation oriented. Define emotional validation oriented to me. I read the words and as I'm going, what the heck does that mean? I know what problem solving means, but what does the other mean?
Emotional validation, to be told that your feelings are valid and that they're real and true to you.
Okay, so clearly I'm a problem solver by default if I'm asking what the heck an emotional what is
validation.
But I'm sort of joking. I mean, I've raised young daughters and I live in a house with lived in a house with 3 women. I'm quite aware of the difference between when do you want a problem solved and when are you just trying to vent about something that happened. I think it's stereotypical.
It is.
That men tend to be problem solvers by nature and women tend to feel more and want to be just validated. Is that your observation? Is that true? Is it true for us?
It is, except what you just said was that when somebody's not looking for the problem to be solved. And it's a unique talent, I will tell you.
I've learned that skill.
Okay.
I did not have that skill in my 20s.
Yes, I agree. And I think most people do have to learn that. It's not necessarily instinctual. And it's something that I have found in my practice is that oftentimes people just, even for me, sometimes my clients just want me to say, oh my gosh, you're right. That was a terrible week. I'm impressed you're not crying right now. And I get that a lot. And then it wasn't always that I worked with men. And the first couple men that I worked with, we got to the end of our first session. And whereas the women went, oh, I feel so much better after talking about this. The men were looking at me and go, okay, now what do I do next? And it was such a stark contrast to what I was used to when I mainly worked with women and children. It was very interesting. And so you mentioned stereotypical, but it is. I've seen it that a lot of the women want validation, but sometimes they do want. And so something else I'm very fond of saying is, if you don't know, ask. You say, hey, you get to the end of your story about you telling me, and I say, wow, it sounds like you had a hard day. I would ask you, hey, I have some thoughts on that. Would you like feedback? Or do you just want a hug? Right? And I think it's important. If you don't know, ask. Sometimes you can totally tell. Other times you don't.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts come to mind on this. First, I never just want a hug. So that's never my solution. So just put that out there. That is never something. But if you are in a long-term relationship, or from my perspective, if you're a father to young ladies, young women, you have to learn to ask that question. Are you looking for a solution or are you just venting? And I can't tell you the number of times for us, but also for my daughters, where they would be explaining something and I just point blank ask them, hey, are you just wanting me to listen or do you want some feedback on that? And one of the things that I think we as problem solvers, the mistake we make is we always jump in with the problem or the solution in our mind. And sometimes, even if they want the solution, if you jump in with it unsolicited, they don't want it anymore. And just the fact of setting the expectation with you that, hey, I'm going to give you solutions if you want them. Let me know you want them. Over time, you or my daughters, they ask for the solution more often because they know that if they just want to vent, they can vent. But more times than not, now they'll be like, hey, what's the solution? And I'll give them thoughts on that. So you have to ask the question. You have to be willing to not try to solve it. And I think as your relationship gets further along and as your kids get older, it's good to not provide the solution. Sometimes even when they're looking for a solution, you shouldn't try to provide it. Like, let them work through it. It's good for them. And that's how they grow.
It's funny because that's the premise of counseling. I'm not
I'm
not supposed to tell people what to do. They beat that into you in graduate school that you don't, people do not, they have to own it. They have to feel good about having come up with the solution and been able to, you cannot tell them what to do. And the people that have seen me know, they'll ask me, they usually joke because they know I'm not going to answer, what should I do, Melissa? And I can't tell you what to do, but hey, would you like help exploring the options? And we'll explore the options. And then you take ownership from that. Telling people what to do, it's not as healthy as helping them figure it out for themselves.
So just to wrap up on the his perspective, her perspective, typically men want to be problem solvers. My advice to men who are problem solvers is that if you're working with someone who just needs to vent, just needs to express the emotions, be okay with that.
Mhm.
Listen to it. Ask them if they want feedback. If they don't want feedback, cool, move on. Don't force the feedback. And if they want the feedback, then do it in a way that is positive and open.